What's going on, everybody? I'm Matt Harmon. Welcome to the Yahoo Fantasy Forecast presented by Toyota, the official automotive partner of the NFL, who's all in all season. And it is a hell of a day to talk ball. And joining me to do just that is Nate Tice. Nate, what's going on, buddy?
Not too much. Kind of all over the place. I'm really focusing on that Seahawks-Rams game. So it was kind of nice to go from, two teams that feel really, really good about, really, really fun about, to our topic today, where we get to maybe, parse some negativity maybe towards some teams. So it's a nice balance, nice healthy breakfast, healthy diet I have of football today.
Yeah, that's right. We're not going to be talking about any teams that have feel-good vibes, that are 7-2, that have the best winning percentage in the conference today, like those Seahawks and Rams. I'm so excited for that game. I was talking about it the other day. I just can't wait to watch it. It's going to be great. You just know, because everybody's excited, it's going to be a terrible football game. I'm just going to go ahead and put that into the universe right now. It's going to be a complete and total letdown.
Serious so one of these teams to a quarterback.
One of these teams is blowing the other out by 25 points or something like that. That's about the way it's going to go. So, yeah, please knock on some wood or something somewhere along the way here. But, all right, yeah, Nate mentioned it. We have a big topic for today in the fantasy film room. We're doing a little blame game here. I'm going to explain what that is when we get into the topic. But essentially, we're going to try to figure out some of these offenses that are struggling right now. Who deserves the most blame? Is it the quarterback? Is it the play caller? Is it the supporting cast? We're going to get into that for our fantasy film room segment. We will, of course, preview Thursday Night Football. And at the end of the show, Joel Smyth joins me, as he always does, for this week's edition of Buzz is Building, some players who are trending up, trending down, that are hot in the fantasy streets right now. But before we get to all that, a quick piece of news we need to discuss, because I'm just so annoyed about this. Marvin Harrison Jr. is out this week and possibly longer after undergoing he's getting his appendix taken out. Okay, appendectomy. He's getting a little appendicitis. That's the word. Appendicitis. I've never had my appendix out, if you can't tell. But he's getting that surgery this week. He's gonna miss this week. He's going to potentially miss more weeks. Nate, why won't the universe just let good things happen to Marvin Harrison Jr.? Unbelievable.
Or just this Cardinals team. It's like, every time it starts to feel decent or feel like they're going on have some rudder to their direction. I was going to say rudderless, but actually I mean in a good way, have some rudder to their direction. They just, this stuff happens, or they just get absolutely shellacked by the Seahawks, just get absolutely just swarmed by that defense and that team. But also, just when we're starting to see some consistency. He did have a drop recently as well. That was an easy first down he had. It was just because they can't do anything.
It's going to happen.
I guess Trey McBride owners, maybe that's some positivity out of this, but also there's not like some young receiver. This is what you and I have talked about with the Cardinals. It's not like they got some young speedy guy that were like, hey, maybe he gets some focus now. It's like, no, kind of know what this Cardinals team is. And then now they're just losing something that was somewhat interesting in Marvin Harrison Jr., who was playing well, at least to me, playing well and kind of expanding some of the stuff with Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I mentioned this yesterday with Ray Garvin that Jacoby Brissett, according to Next Gen Stats, has a 55% success rate when he is blitzed. The 49ers blitzed the Rams a ton last week, at their highest rate this season, which makes sense, right? Because they have no pass rush. And Trey McBride is targeted on 38% of his routes when Jacoby Brissett is blitzed. So our friends at BetMGM have Trey McBride's over-under for receptions at 7.5. The over is minus 125. I think I'm still okay betting it. I'm still okay betting that he's going to catch more than 7 passes in this particular game. So, he should get peppered. I'm a little interested to see Michael Wilson, just because I think he's I'm not saying he's a secretly great player, but I think he's a solid player that if you're absolutely desperate in fantasy for wide receiver play, I think he could maybe help you in this matchup, because that Niners defense is gettable. So that's about it. Just got to get that out there about these the Cardinals are definitely a team I can't wait to stop talking about. And yet we will be talking about them a ton as we head into the offseason 2026 and beyond. But with that, it's time to dive into this week's Fantasy Film Room. All right, welcome to the Fantasy Film Room, presented by Toyota, the official automotive partner of the NFL, who's all in all season with another year of Toyota game day giveaways. From NFL shop gear to even Brock Purdy's favorite Sequoia, Toyota is giving fans a chance to win big. So visit toyota.com/NFL to learn more. All right, for today's Film Room episode, like I said, we're playing a little blame game. Here's what I mean by this. Today, we're going to look at some offenses that we care about in fantasy and assign some blame for why things are not quite firing on all cylinders right now. And what made me come up with this idea, Nate, this is something I was talking about with you yesterday. It's that there's a little bit heading into this year, and I think Charles might have been the one that tuned me in on this, that there's way too much optimism about quarterbacks right now. There's way too many teams that feel too settled at quarterback, and when a fan base feels and media folks feel good about the quarterback, it becomes this thing when it's not quite working, the blame game begins to happen, right? And usually, I'm going to shout out Fantasy Cash, an account on Twitter. I saw this meme that they posted. It's just so perfect. Whenever a young quarterback is doing poorly, it's, oh, the OC did it again, huh? The play caller is always the first one, the first line of defense. No. And I think this was actually related to JJ McCarthy. They posted this one, which is like, oh yeah, it's time to blame Kevin O'Connell because JJ McCarthy is struggling. To me, that seems kind of crazy, but I wanted to actually check my priors here and go through this. So what we're going to do in honor of Thanksgiving right around the corner, we have blame pies here with 4 categories for these struggling offenses right now. Again, the 4 categories are the play caller, the quarterback, the supporting cast, or hey, it's just randomness. Like I always say, stuff or a certain other word happens, and sometimes it's just a little bit of randomness as to why these teams are struggling right now. So I'm going to throw out my guesstimates here, and Nate is going to heat check me. We're going to debate who deserves to eat the biggest slice of the blame pie. But these are our first section here, teams. These are young quarterbacks. We didn't know what to expect. But I would say it's fair that these 3 teams are struggling right now. We're not going to be talking about like the worst teams in football. Okay, yeah, Titans, Browns, stuff like that. We're not going to be doing that. These are the 3 teams in this section: Vikings, Falcons, Panthers. Nate, let's start with Vikings here because I just mentioned them with JJ McCarthy. Let's split up the blame pie here. To me, I think the QB right now, JJ McCarthy, has to own the biggest slice of the pie here. Second, I would say, is supporting cast, and I'll mention why in a second. Third, I would say, is play caller. Then 4 is randomness. I think it was kind of predictable that this team would struggle a little bit with a young quarterback. But again, to me, I think McCarthy's play is the biggest reason why there is some up and downness here. Not so much play caller, supporting cast. Even though, again, I think supporting cast, just because of some of the injuries along the offensive line, maybe that has been a little bit of what they haven't quite expected this year.
Yeah, I mean, I like your ranking. Maybe the actual pie chart would make that yellow section, the QB section, probably eat up about 3/4 of that supporting cast, and about 3/4 of the play caller, and about half of the randomness. No, I think this is a proper ranking. It's kind of hard with them because I think even supporting cast, their offensive line has just been so in flux because of injuries, and now it's actually getting healthy again. Where Ryan Kelly, their center, is going to be coming back too. So. That's been the big thing that even when Carson Wentz was out there as kind of the human pincushion, like him going out there was because like, all right, we got to sort out the offensive line. Someone's got to take these shots as far as hits to the body. So let him be out there. I think even receiving wise, Addison missed time, but then he's been back for a while now. And then I also think, Justin Jefferson, one of the best players in the world at his position. And also Hawkinson's kind of taking a little bit of a step back, but I'm just even thinking of their supporting cast. Jalen Naylor has been good. Another receiver that I think he's a free agent after this year as well. That's such an interesting receiver.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Free agency class, sidebar. But then also running back wise, I think the running backs are good. So I think the supporting cast has been good, like overall, like still one of the better ones. I even said before the season, this is what led to some Vikings optimism, is that I had them as a playoff team, as a sneaky playoff team, was that the rest of it, the run game should be good, which it has been. The play calling and the passing game should have plenty of supporting weapons that even outside of Jefferson, you got kind of nice secondary options, which they do. And then the defense should be, it's kind of worked its ways. Andrew Van Ginkel coming back has really helped, but the defense is a defense that can, win you games or keep you in games. Like the Lions game was a perfect example of this. But then I just kept saying that McCarthy just had to be like the 22nd best quarterback. The problem is that he's been the sometimes 37th or 35th best quarterback based on what stats you're looking at. So of this pie chart this blame game, the blame pie, I think owns a significant part of that, even if other parts have just happened because of injuries, I would say more than anything.
Yeah, the pictures aren't. Oh my God! Yeah, quarterback efficiency chart as we're showing here.
I test or any number you look at, man. It's bottom of the barrel.
It's not. It's just not great. Yeah, the actual visual representation of our slices, that's like getting us in the ballpark. Okay, to me, it's just who deserves the biggest slice that we got to eat here, and I think quarterback is a significant, like by a lot, he deserves. He's got to eat most of this pie. He better be having an empty stomach because he's going to have to eat a lot of pie on this one. And I want to know from you, Nate, when you watch, and it's been 4 starts. Okay. So we're not going to come on here and kill the kid and say he's never going to be good or whatever. Want to get that out of the way, that we're not just saying this is over forever. But when you watch McCarthy, what is the biggest reason that you think he is, I think, objectively struggling right now and not able to activate what should be a good situation?
It is a lot of the stuff that he sees. He will get to the right answer. It's just a lot of his decisions, especially when they kind of, as the game goes along and you get off plays that you've practiced multiple times, opening script, is the usual term you hear. But when you get off of that, is that everything is just, it takes a second. It's a second slow. It's obvious to me that he kind of needs reps on plays that maybe he's not comfortable with. And that's what the NFL becomes. That's why vets become vets, or feel like vets, is that they just have reps at these plays that, okay, I didn't practice it much this week, but we did it like 20 times last year, and we can pull up film from 4 years ago when we ran it against this team and against this defense coordinator. For a quarterback that didn't play a ton in college, and then also when he did play was a run heavy scheme, he just hasn't had a lot of game reps. So I always knew that he'd be more of a project type, but now it's in year 2, faced the injury as a rookie as well. So he basically took a redshirt year. Is very apparent, very apparent. He's kind of a step behind where you see even most rookies or first year starters. It's just obviously needs reps. So everything kind of is a step slow. So he might get to the right route. And that's why a lot of his best throws are to the outside, because it's cleanest for him. So when he has to do stuff that's more timing based, or if he gets knocked off or just moved off of his launch point, then everything just kind of comes unraveled. His footwork comes unraveled. Where his head's at comes unraveled. And because his throwing motion, he has a good arm, but because his throwing motion is a little elongated, it's not like Byron Leftwich, but it's a little elongated. Then it's just defenders have an ability to recover. So that's padded balls. That's a DB be able to make a break on the ball. Roquan Smyth is another good example of what happened. So to me, it's a guy that needs reps, but and I keep kind of using the term catch-22 of all the Vikings is this is a team that wants to compete. So they wanted to do the rookie contract thing, which I totally get. You can make that bet, but this is the bad thing of when the quarterback is not ready to play, even though he's on a rookie quarterback contract. It's that, well, yeah, that's maybe betting on a guy that comes in even like a Herbert, not Herbert. He was way too good as a rookie, but guys that can just be like a little bit average, like Knicks last year. I think maybe is a good example, or even what Penix has done a little bit this year. But not bottom of the barrel play. And it's just a guy that needs a lot of reps because stuff is just it's pretty fast for him.
No, I think that is so well said. And it's funny you bring up, what they wanted to do, right? They wanted to get on the rookie quarterback contract, and that also allowed them to add some more pieces on defense, add some more pieces on the offensive line.
Yep.
Better. That being said, though, I think it has created this pressure box where, because the team is good around him, there's this, this could be a playoff team. So just bench McCarthy for Carson Wentz, or, they should have kept Daniel Jones. Should they have traded for Jameis Winston or something like this? In the long run, the kid needs reps. And I shouldn't be calling him kids. I sound like a grandpa, but the guy needs reps. Okay. He so clearly does, to the point that benching him would make no sense. They need to ride this out, but it's just, it's frustrating for those of us who,
it's rough waves.
It's not a smooth ride, right? You're right. Even if he was playing at Penix's level, it would be one thing, but because he's not, we know that Justin Jefferson has produced with basically any quarterback, and he's averaging fewer than 60 yards per game with JJ McCarthy under center. That I think leads to this pressure box, this frustration. And it's just funny, Nate, because I joked about this, that one of the things I'm trying to do less of as an analyst is, especially when I'm doing fantasy and I'm ranking, is baking in, well, if I can tell myself a story about this, okay, I'll bump this guy up for that. But teams do it too. That's where it's just human nature. You do. And this is one of those situations where I can see the Vikings in my mind, well, if we build up everything around him, he doesn't have to be that good or whatever. And then you get him on the field. It's just the practical application of that. The story is not what they were telling themselves.
No, that's it. I call it narrative scouting. And sometimes narrative scouting can be useful because you're like, oh, yeah, that guy had this because he didn't play a bunch and maybe it leads to this. But sometimes this is what happens all the time when, the laziest version or the version you hear all the time, like during the draft cycle, it's the Deebo Samuel role. It's something of that sort, which before was, the Percy Harvin role. And even those two players who had similar usage also got there in wildly different ways. So it's just some of that. It's just that, like you say, a story or a way to just neatly package what you're trying to like sell or trying to do like that. That kind of is a way to do it. And I think that's even with what they told themselves. Although this is what's just been so interesting to me is just the messaging has been so odd. I don't know how to describe it. Odd. I know Vikings fans have been kind of in their feels about it, but it's just one of these things where, the rumors about Daniel Jones, the rumors about Aaron Rodgers, and you could say that's just all, national media trying to stir something up. It's out there for a reason. And that's all I've been trying to point out whenever I talk about this. It's like, that is just so off the usual like narrative then maybe you even use that term. It's just not the usual reporting, not the usual context clues that you see. And so that's why maybe they knew that maybe this guy, maybe he needs another redshirt year, or maybe we wait until after a bye week, or we wait until drop him in. They maybe needs more time. So that's why I'm just keeping an eye on it always. But also this is something, and this might be a quirk. This is something I just found interesting because I was looking up other stats. I was looking up Caleb Williams actually. But I kind of created a stat in True Media. I didn't like create this actual stat, but this is what I had to do in True Media, which is QB hits, which are when the quarterback's knocked down without taking a sack, and QB sacks divided by dropbacks. So just knockdowns. This is stats available in other ways, but I'm just explaining my process here. I can look back to 2019. There's 224 team seasons. So it's 2019. The Vikings under Kevin O'Connell, their offenses have ranked 218th, as in they allow one of the top 10 most knockdowns per dropback. In 2023, it was 221st, which is bottom 5. In 2024, 123rd, so about league average. Then this year in 2025, they're 219th out of 224. So just under KOC, they've had 3 of the bottom 10 seasons as far as how much the quarterback gets hit. The difference is Kirk. It's a very aggressive offense, a lot of deep play action, a lot of deep dropbacks. So that's going to create some late pressure on stuff and hits. The difference is those are sacks this year. While prior years, it was just Kirk Cousins getting absolutely haymakered and clothesline or Sam Darnold last year. But the ball's out, and it's a good play is happening. Now those are turning into sacks. That's why this all feels so different. And that's why everyone's like, oh my God, KOC, why are you doing this? It's like, this is the formula, dude. Like this is what you have to do to succeed. And it's good. It's what you want to get to, but that's the difference of this year. Is this McCarthy's a little thinner and he's a little slower to get rid of the ball. Hits are now sacks, which should be a 50-50 thing. Like half of your total hits or knockdowns are going to be hits and half are going to be about sacks. Now it feels more like it's like 80% when it's McCarthy. And that's just kind of a little math thing, a little thing I looked up and found like an hour ago. And I was like, oh, this is relevant to what we're talking about. So kind of fits neatly here.
No, that's a great way of explaining exactly what's happening. To me, at least, is that I think McCarthy just always feels a beat slow and then knows he's slow. So when he does get rid of the ball, it's just like line driving it and it's not accurate. That's another problem when he does actually get it. And that's, to me, and we'll transition on this, but it reminds me a lot of, and I'll put myself in this category too. It reminds me a lot of what people were kind of saying about Anthony Richardson and the Colts last year. To me, I was like, man, why aren't they kind of running the Gardner Minshew, kind of the more Mickey Mouse stuff, and just with the more talented quarterback, they're trying to get all these deep developing plays. It's like, well, now you put a different quarterback in and all that same offense looks pretty freaking good. And that's just a guy that has seen a lot more football than Daniel Jones. So that's just kind of and again, what inspires me about this blame game is that we try to, the coach should be doing this, the coach should be doing that. And we just judge it so much based on outcomes when really a lot of coaches cater their offense to the player that they have. And sometimes that can be a mistake, but all right, with that, let's go ahead.
I was going to say, why don't the Eagles throw the ball over the middle? Why doesn't the fourth offensive coordinator throw the ball over the middle? It's one of those, it's they cater to somebody back there. No, but it's very true. It's just how it goes.
100%. Okay, let's get to the Falcons here. This is another team kind of in this category, and they've definitely hit some rough spots this year. I would say blame pie on this one. Quarterback is still number one to me. I would say it's a little bit more spread out, though, why things feel a little disjointed than just Michael Penix. We can talk about Penix and some of his problems. I put a play caller at number 2 just because I think they're one team that feels particularly siloed. I'm not 100% in love with what Zach Robinson has done this year. I think sometimes they've avoided this hitting the easy button with Drake London. Now they've gotten a little bit back to that the last few weeks, which has been good. Speaking of that, I think supporting cast does have to carry some weight here because outside of the run game and outside of Drake London, I think basically everything else leaves you wanting more, which I'm fine with them just hammering Drake London over and over again because I think that really helps Penix out, but it would be nice if Darnell Mooney could make a play ever. That would be cool. And then 4, I put randomness 4th on this one as well. There's some random stuff about how they're better at home versus not, but those splits have kind of been wonky as well. So I don't know, Nate, when you look at this blame pie, where I still think quarterback needs to eat the biggest slice here, but there's some other stuff going on in this offense.
Yeah, this pie like makeup is a little more equal. Like it's just like slight percentages, like slight slivers of the pie is the difference. But you kind of, man, it's tough because it's not like it's a definitive one where I'm like, it's Penix is the absolute issue. It's like, it is more of a true spread it out blame game. And the supporting cast, I'll start with supporting cast, is O-line has been getting hit and O-line's had some injuries, and that even a guy like Matthew Bergeron, who not a household name, has been playing really well at left guard for them. You lose him. You lose, I mean, I know they have a new center, but he's okay. You lose your right tackle, like multiple right tackles. So there's been some of that even outside of I was trying to think of the best way to put it. Like their secondary pieces, like you mentioned it, but it's just like Mooney. I know Ray McClaw's not even on the team anymore, but just anybody else step up. Tyler Algier, you're a special boy. You can do whatever you want. No, but anybody else kind of step up. I love my hamster ball. But just even like they feel sloppy outside the main guys. Like this is a team that fired their receiver coach midseason, which is a rare thing. And that has just been kind of like, they're a mess. Like they just feel like a mess as a team, just overall, even outside the offense, even on offense, because they use so much pistol. And I know, and again, using football stats, they have to have some context with them because there's a lot of reasons why they get to this. Zach Robinson says it's because Bijan Robinson is best from pistol and he likes pistol. And it's because I don't think the quarterback can bend his knees and do the under center stuff. And I think consistently and when I watch them, they're trying to do more play action. But the thing is, how they have to do the action is unusual to me. They're doing a lot. I mean, just watch Penix. He has to do all these twirls and flip arounds and hip flips. To me, for a guy that struggles with accuracy, that is the worst thing you could possibly do. Because just stand in your room right now, anyone listening, and spin around once, and then now try and engage yourself again. Like if for a guy, good athletes and the best guys can do that. But Penix is, he's kind of a stiff mover. And with that, and also his footwork as a thrower, he really elongated as well, where he throws the absolute piss out of the ball. Like he has some of the highest RPMs in the league. But the thing is that he has that long stride that leads to sprays. So if you have a long stride and then you have to do extra choppy footwork, that to me can lead to a lot of sprays, which is like, there they are. Like I don't think anyone that's watched a Falcons game has seen plenty of sprays. So it's one of these things where even when they try to do the right things, there's still some lack of thoughtfulness, which is the siloed offense that you're speaking to. So even when they're trying to break down the silos, it's kind of like, half-assed. Like, it's kind of just that, and which is kind of explains the Falcons. Like that kind of, I mean, I'm not like, it's not like, well, this is a weird thing with this team. It's like, no, this is because how everything they've done really in the last couple of years. This is what it's felt like. So the offense is just kind of the latest indicator of all this.
The YouTube chat says that play caller is actually most to blame, which I think they're probably just mad that Tyler Algier gets red zone work in a fantasy
Fire
YouTube
Arthur
chat.
Smith.
But yeah, hey Arthur Smith. It's aging well. Tyler Algier's a great goal line back. Sorry guys.
Yeah.
Listen, I got Bijan
Johnny
Robinson
Smith look in Miami.
Yeah. Kyle Pitts not doing too much. Remember when that was the whole thing? I mean, what a time. The Falcons always provide us with something to talk about. But yeah, I think with Penix, the footwork is just such a mess sometimes, and I think some of that is a little bit just how he plays. As you mentioned, he gets off his spot, and I don't think he's fundamentally sound in how he can rework out of structure. Like you see, some of these guys are so natural at it. But there are parts of his game, like when I watch him play, I don't want to just yank him out of the lineup. You know, I think
either. I think
yeah.
you can win with Penix. Like that's a big distinction between some of the other guys I'm negative on. Penix is just not a perfect quarterback, but you can win with him,
right?
Because he's going to be streaky, but you can, if you have a decent run game, they're built how they should be built, where they should be a top 5 run game, and then Penix will be some inconsistencies. But guess what? You get 18% explosive pass rate, and you just hit these big chunks. Yeah, you miss some sprays and yada, 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 but you can win with certain team structures. And on the flip side, their defense isn't built to win how they should be winning on offense either. That's kind of, they're a mess. They're a mess.
That's actually, I think, the thing I would say the most about, and again, this is where some of the stuff goes a little bit beyond just play caller. It is the vibes of the staff, the vibes of the organization. I brought this up a lot with Penix in the offseason. Anytime you talk to people that are close to the team or anybody that knows the situation, they would just tell you how much this team just is obsessed with Penix, and they really think he is the next big thing. I think they probably could have done with a little bit better realism of, hey, he's got some flaws. How can we work around those flaws, and how can we sort of fit him into a bit more of a box? And maybe that happens. I don't know. We'll see if the staff is around next year. We'll see if any of this is around next year, but maybe next year they can be a little bit more realistic with him, because I think having more options on offense to maybe unlock would be good. Even though, again, I think with their current construction, they should never leave a game without Drake London getting 10 footballs thrown his way. That should be the mandatory every single game. But with the current construction, that's one thing. But maybe add some more credible options there. I just think they're, as we always talk, you and Charles and I always talk about the Falcons, they're just a little delusional. They're just a little bit adrift from reality and true expectations here. But I think for the rest of the season, I think Penix can get the job done that from a fantasy perspective we want. Like he can get Drake London to these massive games. You know, he can be supported by a good run game with both of these guys. It's not your fault that you haven't picked up Tyler Algier in fantasy yet. That guy should be 100% rostered. Get it done. And I'm sick of seeing the 30% rostered rate in Yahoo leagues. We got to jack that number up, folks. Like you can benefit from that as well. So yeah, it's just, I think there's enough here that this offense can remain viable. But let's stick in this division here and talk about Carolina. The last team here in young quarterbacks. This one, and maybe this is just because I follow a decent amount of Panthers fans on Twitter from my history, but this is a fan base right now that is very there you go. That's very much doing the blame game, and there's a certain segment of people that will just put it anywhere other than the quarterback. And especially people seem really low on Dave Canales as a coach right now. And I come away with this from the complete opposite takeaway here. So my blame pie for this one, I think QB's got to eat a real big slice on this one. I think he's got to eat the biggest slice, the vast majority of it. And I think play caller to me is fourth in this one in terms of the biggest slice of the pie. I think supporting cast is second though. And I think we can talk about that and some of the limitations of specifically the receiver room around Bryce Young. But I do think that we're a year and a half into Dave Canales and Bryce Young. And to me, when you tell me if I'm wrong on this, Nate, when I watch this offense, I think it's sound. I think it's well designed. I don't think they're doing anything that's offensive. I think the plays are there to be made. And I just see a quarterback who, for whatever reason, isn't taking the plays, isn't taking what's available to him, or can't take what's available to him. And I think that has been the biggest problem for this team this year.
I think if this, the epitomized version of what the Panthers are trying to do looks something like what the Cowboys do. That's the type of offense they're trying to get. Bully ball in a run game, and then a kind of out-muscle you passing game with a supreme operator at quarterback as far as just decision-making, accuracy, and all that. That is the grown-up version of what the Panthers are trying to do. I think the run game and offensive line, even with injuries, has been one of the better ones in the league.
Awesome. Yes.
Obviously, for 2 years in a row now. I can't reiterate this enough. Even Charles has said Joe Gilbert. I'm giving him assistant coach of the year last year, and it wasn't even one I batted my eyes that much at. I thought there was a couple other good candidates, but but also just speaks to just they're very well coached. It's sound. It's a high floor offense, and then that's where you need the skill guys to take it over the top. I think the run game has. I think Rico has been even a guy I liked, and we talked about him again for 25 minutes at one point on this show. Has been even better than I like always liked him, but he's been a tier above. And I think that's part of it, the trust that he has in this offense and the offensive line. I like a decent amount of the pass catchers, even if it's not a perfect group. But I just, this is all leading into, and I think Canales is kind of a fine play caller. I would even venture to say good. And some of the designs and what there's times where a failed play might happen. And even when I watch the TV copy live on Sunday, I'm like, oh God, what was that? And then I watch it back on film. And I'm like, oh, this guy tripped, but that was a good design, or the quarterback just missed it, yada, yada, or the guy lost some protection. So I'm leading all this to say that I think everybody's above at least average. And when I just look at each section, maybe the tight end room, but they do have interesting pieces there. But it's leading to me to say Bryce Young is the biggest pie eater of this entire pie, because it's just a lot of the stuff is there are limitations. And we've hinted at talking about Bryce Young. I've talked about Bryce Young on Football 301 a little bit. There is just a lot of limitations to his game right now. And even the stuff that he's supposed to be good at, he just has a lot of moments where he's not getting to it, where he was supposed to be a very smart operator from the pocket. So, okay, if you're a smart operator from the pocket, that means even if you're not an aggressive quarterback, this is the Alex Smith conundrum. Even if you're not an aggressive quarterback that pushes the ball, when things line up nice, that's when you take your chances. I never feel like Bryce Young truly takes those chances where he pushes the ball. Actually, we're just seeing the yards per attempt stat. And on top of it, he's small. Obviously, he knows that. But also like just how he plays too, that there's less room for error with anything he does. He gets moved off his spot. He might think he has something there, but he's like, well, I can't get there now because I don't have the arm strength. All right, I'm going to check it down. And so there's just there's a cap to everything that they do passing game wise. It's never going to be a high usage one, a high volume passing game, I should say, even if they have receivers. And I really like T-Mac, probably slightly bit more than you, but I really do think he's a good player. But I think that no matter what with Bryce Young, their offensive system is going to be run. Okay, then we pass when we have some nice little plays designed right there, but not pass, and then we sprinkle the runs in. And I just think it's because of the limitations of Bryce Young. I think they have an interesting question to answer after this season about what they're going to do with him and what they're going to go moving forward, because it just hasn't been enough. I'm rambling, but the last little Desmond Ridder, a guy that I was higher on than probably a lot of people, his stats are kind of my Mendoza line. You have to have stats better than Ridder, underlying stats like success rate, sack rate, turnovers, and everything. Bryce Young's are worse than Desmond Ridder's, pretty substantially. And I think he has, a pretty good ecosystem around him. So that's the kind of concerns that I see when I watch this team.
I think that's the conclusion that we're coming to, is that the ecosystem is better maybe than people realize. And the only reason I would say that, Canales talked about, because Twitter was all up in the fact that they never pushed the ball downfield. And Canales kind of answering to accusations of that this week said, well, I'll call them when we make the plays. I'll call more of those when we make the plays. And just moved on to the next question quickly. And, to me, I'm watching the film. I've just watched a bunch of T-Mac film for the reception perception rookie report, out tomorrow, by the way, on the website. So check it out. Please check it out. A lot of work goes into it. So I've been watching a lot of T-Mac film, and I'm like, half of his route tree is all downfield. Like he's an ex receiver that's all running a bunch of downfield routes. You think there are no guys running down the field? The throws just aren't being taken there. And I don't know if it's a lack of trust. Bryce Young maybe doesn't trust himself, or he doesn't trust these players. Maybe that's it, but you got to trust them at some point. You got to let the throws go at some point. To T-Mac specifically, who hasn't been perfect this year, has had some drops, has had some contested catch losses, but he's a rookie receiver. It's going to happen. I actually said to Ray, or was it Ray, or actually it was Boone this week, Nate, that I think he's basically in the Marvin Harrison Jr. zone as a rookie. And because he's working with a subpar quarterback who does, that we've got some issues with, and he's only an X receiver running a downfield route tree. He doesn't get a lot of layups, but in this system, that's what he should be doing. And the other problem with that is that just the other receivers in the room, I hate to be mean, but like Leggett is just a total, to use one of your terms, he's a total nothing burger. Like, and the whole point of drafting T-Mac was now, well, we don't have to play Leggett at X, but Leggett hasn't even been good in any of these other roles. So that's a big problem. And they keep playing him. They just got to play Coker over Leggett. I'm sorry. You got to just erase the draft capital at this point and accept one guy's better than the other. But then the depth after those guys is pretty lackluster too. Jimmy Horn, they're trying to use him as that leverage creator.
They're trying to make him so bad.
and for most of it, it's just to clear. It's to the love of the game routes, just to full speed motion. The Arian Smyth role in the Jets offense, the Tutu Atwell role, the Kevontae Turpin role, just clear space for other guys. That's why I wanted to bring up the supporting cast part of it, because I think they're not that, like, Coker and T-Mac are good players, but I think how they're deploying these guys, that's left a little bit of problems in the offense, but it's much less of an issue than it is with the quarterback right now, just where he is at.
Did you, when you're watching him or studying this, did you kind of notice that like Tetaro's T-Mac's best plays were kind of third downs? And that was, to me, that means because those are plays, they're designer plays. Third and fourth downs, designer. Red zone plays are designer. That means that week to week they change heavily. And on that, why that's telling to me is that means, okay, they're making him the number one on those plays. But then on first and second down, it's very scattershot, where it's like you feel like he goes quiet for a while. And that's because a lot of the plays that they go, it's like there are more valid options on those, or more options that you could say are like, that's where the ball should go to, even if it's not perfect like that. But that's the thing, is when you're going like the Packers game where they're controlling, on offense, they're controlling it. They're only throwing the ball a couple dozen times. And usually it's only because it's on third down. So it's just, again, there's just caps to, because they're not going to be a high, they know what they have there. That's what's very apparent to me. But anyways, I just kind of noticed that when I watched this team, is just, McMillan has some good moments, but then it's just also like, you feel like he goes quiet for half a quarter, of something of that sort. And because it's just the flow of the offense. I will say Jimmy Horn was one of the fastest players in the NFL when I was looking at some of the tracking data, next gen stats.
You feel it.
Yeah, he can roll. Oh yeah, he can roll. Yeah. But it's funny how much they're trying to make him a thing.
I honestly, I think they're, I really hate to say it, because I was hoping, I've never been a Leggett guy. I think they overdrafted him. He's one of these guys that just, he was drafted ahead of Ladd McConkey, and that's just going to age like freaking milk. Not the last team that we're going to talk about today that did that, by the way. But it's just one of those where you got obsessed with size and traits and not skills. And 2 years into his career, we're not seeing a lot of skills. So I actually think that there could be some cool stuff they would do with Horn as the speed slot, even again, if it's just to create leverage for T-Mac or Coker or whatever. And those are the other two receivers on the field, Coker and T-Mac. And then you've got Horn doing something. I'd be into that. I think Canales does a good job. Again, they're using Horn in some interesting ways.
Yeah,
it's just, to me, I just don't think they've got the guy at quarterback. And I think that, unfortunately, for anyone who's invested in any of these players in fantasy, like they're not going to benching him for Andy Dalton's not going to do anything. So you're kind of just riding out the string here for a team that is 5-5 and in the hunt for the playoffs. But I think their next quarterback is not on the roster. And you're right. How they solve that in the offseason is going to be interesting.
And I also have a tiebreaker with the Packers, who are just above them in the playoff race, which is just something to keep an eye on. Actually, well, unless they tie a game, they can't tie. Actually, so
yeah, that's true.
Never mind. That's ever. Yeah. No, the Panthers are fascinating to me, because I think they're a little bit better than I think people realize. That Packers game wasn't a total fluke, and I think I got to study their defense soon, because I think their defense has really picked up. Getting Derek Brown, wow, weird. That actually helps. But I do think, they're interesting right now, but it's just, I got to really figure out what's going on with Bryce Young, and I think they have to figure that out too.
All right, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we've got offenses that were supposed to be much better than this, and yet they're not. We'll get into those right after this. All right, we're back. We're continuing to run through a little blame game on some of these struggling offenses. The second section, these are the offenses that we expected more. These were supposed to be better. We've got Broncos, we've got Packers, we've got Bills. And listen, I'm not pulling any metrics out of here, any of that. We're just going off feel and the eye test on this. So I don't care, Nate, if the commenters are about to be like, well, actually, this team is still third in this metric or that, or maybe you're going to do that. I don't know. But we're going off just how it feels right now. And these three teams don't feel good. So we're going to figure out what the problems is. Let's start with the Denver Broncos on this one. Okay. We just talked about this, Nate, yesterday, and I think we both know how the other feels about this, but we should talk about it for the fantasy bros here because there's a lot of players people care about on this offense for one reason or another. Broncos, the blame pie, I think it's QB by a lot in terms of the blame pie here. I would say 2 is randomness, and I said that only because of how weird they feel quarter to quarter, but maybe you can tell me that's actually part of the quarterback here. And then number 3, I said supporting cast because I think there are some interesting players here. I do not think the skill position group is perfect by any means, but I think they've got some useful players. And then I said 4 is play caller by a lot. This is one where I just completely reject the notion that, Sean Payton is somehow holding Bo Nix back. I think this is one of those ones where we talked about earlier. Why does the quarterback or why does the play caller call these plays? Well, probably because that regardless of what he says, how he feels about his quarterback. So Nate, Broncos, Bo Nix, where are we at right now?
Yeah. Well, our show yesterday on Football 301, it was what could be the fatal flaws for playoff teams. And some of them were like, run game, red zone defense, like for the Patriots. And this one was just Bo Nix. And that's so, yeah, I agree that he is the biggest issue with all this because when watching this offense and now watching it for a year and a half, for a player that had a lot of starts in college and a lot of reps in college, it's an offense that's very limited right now. It's a ton of screens. And there's using stuff like screens and play action to kind of really help boost up your quarterback, but the quarterback still has to put it over the top. Like the Rams run screens and play action as much as anybody, but then you watch the Rams offense and you're like, oh my God, because the ball is just sailing 20 yards down the field and it's touchdowns and big plays. When watching a team like the Broncos that has, guardrails or training wheels, whatever you want to call it, there's still kind of a cap to a lot of these plays. There are shot plays they call, but they're, not completed very often. But then even on other plays where it's something down the field or supposed to be down the field, as soon as Nix has moved off his launch point, and he doesn't take a lot of sacks, but this was the kind of term I used yesterday it's a denominator issue where he's moved off the launch point, he's checking it down or he's scrambling. And so when you check it down or scramble, as opposed to get moved off your launch point, my eyes are up and I'm going to launch this throw and you have to really check. Well, then the defender's eyes come downfield. So now that he might scramble a lot, they haven't been leading to successful scrambles, which matters. If you're not going to put the ball out and play, well, you better be worthwhile when you're using your legs. You better be making those effective plays. So while I watch Nix and he has a great arm, he's a great athlete, his footwork and his processing right now are just subpar. And it just leads to this offense. And Sean Payton, again, has been calling plays for a long time, calling plays well for a long time, and can call kind of a varied offense. It's very traditional, but he can call a little bit of everything. Watching this offense week in, week out, they're calling the same plays on second and long. They're calling the same plays every third down. They're calling the same concepts, the same protections. And defenses are now really starting to tee off on it, especially really good defenses like the Texans. Just anything that happens with anything you watch in that game, it was just like they couldn't do anything on offense until that last drive. And then it bears out in the stats too. I mean, I can get into that, but there's 26 quarterbacks with 200 or more attempts this season. He's bottom 5 in passes, 10 or more air yards, bottom 5 in net yards an attempt. And that's not with not taking a lot of sacks. 21st in explosive pass rate, 25th in success rate on dropbacks, out of 26 again, 26 on success rate on just pass attempts. And just to kind of sum this up, when they drafted Bo Nix, or leading into that process of that they might draft a quarterback, I kept thinking that Sean Payton would go 2 ways with his quarterback, which was early Drew Brees with the Saints, was play action, unpin the grenade, and launch stuff. It actually looked a little similar to what the Rams are doing right now. Play action, big chunk plays, or what the Vikings did with Darnold. Or it was late career Drew Brees, which was quick game, awesome run game. quick game, awesome run game, but you're hyper efficient. And then you maybe break a tackle and that's your explosive. They do neither. Bo Nix is not efficient enough as an operator to be the quick game merchant that I was like maybe that they would go towards when they drafted a quarterback in that draft. And he's not consistent as a deep ball thrower, or just gets moved off his launch point and just his accuracy wanes. It's to be able to kind of like a deep ball merchant. So it's just kind of the worst of both worlds right now. So watching this offense, it's just, that more than anything. I don't think the supporting cast, the offensive line's good. I think the pass catchers are solid. You and I always talk about it. They're fine. We like Pat Bryant a little bit. We know what Cortland Sutton is. Tight ends are weak. I'll acknowledge that. And I think the running backs are okay as well. But say they're average overall, average supporting cast with a top 3 defense, with a top, at very least 8 play caller. All right, I can kind of figure out where maybe the issues lay. And that's what I test statistically. That's where they all lay.
Yeah, I made this point to you yesterday that Bo Nix has the lowest pressure to sack rate in the NFL, which you mentioned. It's good that he doesn't take sacks, but when he's under pressure, he's also 30th out of 34 quarterbacks in adjusted yards per attempt. So it's just like, great. You evaded the sack and then nothing good happens. He's between Tua and Cam Ward. Tell me how those guys are doing this year. One's a rookie quarterback and one guy's throwing interceptions like it's his job. So it just at this point, I think, again, I know what's going on here. Like, I know what the deal is. My question to you is just, can this get better? Can this get better with Bo Nix? Can this get better with this offense? Not just from a fantasy standpoint, but even just, this is a team that's, we're talking about this, and they have an 8-2 record. They're one of the best teams in their conference record wise. Right. Like, can this formula get them anywhere going forward? And that's what I even said yesterday. They are for sure like worthy of being a playoff team. Like, maybe if they lose one of those games, they're 7-3, but it's not like, oh my God, this has been pure luck. Wait until it craps out. I think the thing is, max they can win one playoff game, and really it's dependent on who. Put it this way, it's very dependent on who they play in the wild card round, which is to me not a contender. If you actually have to like worry about who you play against, like, so I think anyone with a valid defense, well, they're going to be able to hang in those games. But then you look at who's currently in the playoffs. It's like, all right, who's that going to be? The Bills, but that's still just, there's a limitation to what this version of this is. The best way to help Bo Nix, because you already got a defense, you already got a good old line, is just like something, maybe the Eagles did with AJ Brown. You need an actual top 8 real dude receiver that can just win everything. We both like Sutton, but we just kind of know what his tier is. But again, how are those available? How can you get one of those guys? That's a whole conundrum that they have to sort out. So there's just a huge cap to what they do, because especially playoff time, and their run game is solid, but not great, average. So it's just one of those things too, where it's like, there's a cap to this version of it. And the best ways to do is you have to add some high end skill talent. So that's an off-season conundrum. I have a Jimmy Horn stat for you too. Once we finish the segment, that I'm very excited to share with you. Okay, good. I can't wait to hear it. My last one in Denver. There's this mystery in the fantasy community. Like, why is Troy Franklin outscoring and out targeting Cortland Sutton? And to me, it's just when you're a good but not great and like acceptable number one receiver, like you can get away with this guy as your number one, but he's not in that same tier of guys that we were mentioning at that level. That player, especially when you only line up an X receiver, look at some of these guys we're talking about, by the way. T-Mac only lines up at X receiver. Cortland Sutton only lines up at X receiver. And it's been a struggle for those guys to consistently hit. That when you have a chaos quarterback, or a quarterback that is not playing well, that guy's always the first one that will struggle. Always the first one that will struggle to get the ball. Yep. And like, nothing has changed about Sutton from last year. When I watch him, it's just a good point. Last year that was running hot. Bo Nix was running a little hotter, and now he's not. And that's why Troy Franklin, who I think is, again, he's fine. He's got his role. Yeah. I don't think he's probably not a guy I'd want as my number 2, but he's perfectly fine to have in your receiver room. He drops the ball too much. He doesn't play through contact. He struggles going over the middle, but he's good on these designer stuff. And other than that, he's good on some of this designer stuff, and he can get open and create some separation. And that guy has been getting the football more because of that. So that's just one point about players.
That's a great point, though. That's the same kind of thing I alluded to with T-Mac, is that on third down is where you feel his impact. because the play actually goes to where it's designed, as opposed to when they get into scramble chaos mode, then doesn't matter if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just who's getting open. And usually it's Bo Nix running to his right. So it's based on even just where you're located on a given play. So yeah, no, that's a very good point about just how that can create kind of chaotic numbers as well, results.
Next team up here, Packers. This one, I have the blame pie at a pretty even split between our 4 categories here. Play caller, quarterback, supporting cast, randomness. And I'm wondering if you disagree with me on this. First, just the randomness. They've had some really good stretches this year, and they've had some bad stretches this year. So that's what I mean by randomness. Is we're just squarely in the pocket when they're struggling, and I won't be all that surprised if they finish the year really strong on offense. Let me just get that out of the way. The boring analysis. Yeah. Let me just get that out of the way. I do think though. I do think in terms of what's wrong right now. I love LaFleur as a play designer. I think he has frustrated me a little bit with a play caller, and I also don't think he has a good feel for the personnel right now or where his team is. They're obsessed with this ground game that's super mid and very unexplosive. I think they have not accepted that their additions on the offensive line did not make this unit good. I think the line has been a problem, and that leads me into supporting cast, where I think the line has not been great, especially from a run blocking perspective. That Aaron Banks addition was kind of bizarre at the time and is not gone well so far this year. They've also had injuries as well. I know they give him a lot of money. And then at pass catcher, I think, look, they're super banged up right now. And their 2 best players, they're super banged up. Like people didn't like when I pointed this out during the Monday Night Football game, or I think actually the next morning. I just said, hey, look, my first line was, this doesn't absolve anyone of anything here. But they're running out, Bo Melton as the slot receiver. They moved him to cornerback this offseason. Malik Heath is supposed to be their kind of annoying 5th receiver that plays too much. And I still hate all the personnel rotation. That still drives me crazy. I still don't love that. But, now it's the guys that used to be the little rotating annoying players. They're out there all the time now. And that's where this team is. And I think where this leads also into quarterback is, I would say the 2 guys who created a lot of layups in this offense, Nate, is Tucker Kraft and is Jaden Reed, because those guys were hey, they are going to help out. And I think when Jordan Love doesn't have those layups available, that's when bad things happen for him. He is not blameless in all this either. So that's why I think just like there's something going on.
You're nailing it. You're nailing it. I rewatched the Eagles game and this morning, and and Charles and I laughed about this, is that when you rewatch the Packers, it's always not as bad as it looks on TV. You're like, they're really so bad close
on TV.
It's so annoying, because I know I sound like I'm just, as everyone wants to yell at us, clinging to your priors, but I watch them. I'm like, and then I look at the stats. I'm like, they're not bottoming out completely. Oh man. And so again, I watch on rewatch. I think a good example of what they're dealing with right now is they had a big play go to Christian Watson. I really want to say it was 3rd and 1. And they get an illegal formation. And on the play, they went 6 offensive linemen. And Bo Melton, who this summer the Packers coaches toyed with playing corner for a little bit because his brother is a good corner with the Cardinals. He's actually good. Max Melton, he's a pretty good player.
I forgot about this when I was posting the screenshots of the Packer receiver use. Just like, where's Bo Melton? Oh, right. After in True Media, I got to go add DBs to the mix here to get his ass.
That's what he's listed as. He's and this is just the lack of detail when you're into this depth that you're referring to. Is there's a difference between like interesting depth. There's a classic line actually. I think the old GM for the Bills said it, where he said, "Depth is great until you have to use it." And there's Bo Melton on where the 6th offensive lineman, because he doesn't realize that's a tight end technically, not a left tackle, but he just is an offensive lineman number. He lines up on the ball. And so they hit this big 20-yard play to Christian Watson, who looks good, by the way, Christian Watson. They hit this big play, and they get an illegal formation because he just doesn't have the lack of detail, because he's the depth. He was a DB a couple months ago. And that's just what the Packers are right now, because I rewatched them. You watch the second half, you're going to be like, how did they not score in this game, essentially? And how did they lose? Because there's so much good that's happening in the passing game, even with these backups. But what you said, though, I think nailed it. The lack of read, and of course the lack of craft, but the lack of read too. These plays, that these kind of cutesy designery plays that they'll have sometimes, they're just not as fun because it's not Reed taking them. It's,
Mm-hmm.
Savion Williams, who isn't awful, but it's just, he's not Reed. And also like Tucker Kraft is truly one of the best tight ends in the NFL and one of the best yak weapons in the NFL at any position. So when you have these screens, these flat plays, these check downs, they turn into 4-yard gains as opposed to 24-yard gains. And those yards add up. And that's just what it feels like right now. So how you said it was evenly split, that's how I feel right now. Everything, I mean, you're on top of all of it. I think LaFleur too is just been frustrating at moments, been great in other moments, been very frustrating with game flow. I think also their backups. Melton had a drop, I believe, as well. One of their backup, They had a couple drops. One had a devastating 4th down drop. That was a beautiful ball. Yeah, Love was on fire in the second half. Like if on rewatch, it maybe a little bit more like, okay, you weren't as chaotic as maybe I thought when we talked yesterday morning. It wasn't great, don't get me wrong, but there was a lot of more explainable things that happened. But that stat, by the way, and this actually applies to Savion Williams, so actually it's very relevant, is there's a snap or a thing I would look at because of Jamal Agnew used to really frustrate me and how Doug Peterson used him with the Jags, that no matter when he was on the field, he was getting a touch. He was either getting a screen or a gadget play or a handoff or something. So it's design runs plus targets per snap on offense. And if I lower it all the way down to 70 snaps, here's the top players in this category. JSN, okay, Puka, Rashee Rice, Keenan Allen, Savion Williams, Jamar Chase, and then Jimmy Horn.
Yeah.
So when they're on the field, Savion Williams and Jimmy Horn get the ball or get targeted plays or design plays for them as much as the best kind of receivers in the NFL. Jason, Puka Nacua, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill's up here as well, Mike Evans, CeeDee Lamb, Demario Douglas is up here as well. But I just thought that was pretty funny, and I had to look it up because that's the Jamal Agnew stat, and then Savion Williams being high up there is like so fitting for our conversation right now.
Yeah, and that's the type of stuff that I wish LaFleur would just junk. I don't like. It's almost like they're trying to justify
Reed's not in there.
Why Savion.
Get it out.
Yeah, it's almost like, but the stuff with Williams too. It's a change up, but everybody knows what's coming, and those plays almost always suck. So it's just, to me, that's the stuff that does drive me crazy with them sometimes. Like, just junk those plays. And when Reed gets back, they're not going to do it. I'm wasting my breath, but just put him on the field all the time, because it's this stretch has really, and we haven't said the name Matthew Golden, and kind of a reason we haven't said the name Matthew Golden. It's fine, but it's not. It's a huge step down.
It's fine, but it's not fine. Because Christian Watson coming back, I'm like, oh, which it's the whatever. I don't want to play with you anymore with Woody, like whatever meme you want to use.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. Oh,
yep. Which is not great because they just drafted the guy in the first round. That's the thing. The problem with Matthew Golden is, like, if that guy was a 3rd round pick, fine, totally cool. Fine. But you took him in the first round and you made this like big deal about taking a wide receiver, and then you're still rotating him on and off the field and not doing anything with him. That's not great. So yeah, I think this stretch of games has, in a weird way, Reed not playing has made me feel better about Reed and how good I think he is. So yeah, I think that's my one takeaway, my actionable takeaway from this is, I know Reed is probably stashed in a lot of places, but God, they need him back there, and I think he could get a lot of usage when he gets back if he's healthy, because they really, really need it.
Me, you, and
all right, last team we're
the Jaden Reed truthers just trumpeting his horn all the time. Yeah, it's us 3, man.
Who's got LaFleur's number? We need to get him. We need to get him clued in on this trutherism here. But last team we're going to talk about here in this section, we're going to talk Buffalo Bills, and they're a team that I'm sure you can pull out the stats in terms of what's going on here. The blame pie, in terms of the offensive, I think is still pretty efficient. Those stats I'm sure are available here. But in terms of the blame pie for the Bills, this one to me is supporting cast by a lot. It's by a lot. And then I also think there's some randomness here, some bad luck, whatever. And then quarterback is obviously number 4, and I put play caller at 3. And we can talk about the Bills supporting cast, Nate, and we can do the whole thing again. But I had a good. I know. I had a good. Somebody asked me a really good question about this. I know. We could do this whole thing again with the Bills and their. But to me, the thing that I actually come down to with, even when talking about the Bills and the supporting cast, I had somebody was asking me a good question today about just nobody can get open, but I mean, guys like Samuel and Elijah Moore and Josh Palmer's known as a separator. Number one, I don't know why Josh Palmer's known as a separator. We got to stop talking like he is a separator, please. That's enough of that already. But guys like Curtis Samuel is I just think he's not the same player anymore after all the injuries, and
No.
that is what it is. It's over for him, and it's unfortunate. But I liked the signing when they made it, but it just hasn't happened. And Elijah Moore, I think Moore actually might be able to help them as a separator, but that's kind of back to my problem here is that to me less about, because the question was, oh well, isn't that the play design then if these guys are separators? To me, I don't know about you, but I think the play designs are fine. It's just how they deploy and allocate the players and how the roster has been built puts them in real limitations with how to get these wide receivers in a good position.
And also they're another offense that just feels actually a little bit predictable. Like I don't think they've expanded as much as they've had. I thought last year is when they added so many cool layers to this offense. And this happens sometimes. You we don't want to overdo it. I'm trying to look up their pressure rate as well, because that's another thing. I feel like the offensive line, while still good, while still a very good unit, has been lesser as pass protectors this year. And I think Josh Allen as well has had moments where he's gotten a little skittish, that's Josh Allen. You got to, those moments happen to him every year. He's become an extremely smart quarterback as far as just processing, as far as pre-snap ability. But he has these hero ball moments, Professor Chaos moments that used to be all the time as a rookie, a little bit less as a second-year player, a little bit less as a third-year player, just got a little bit better. It's really kind of reared its ugly head a little bit this year. I just feel like it's a little anecdotally. I don't have a true number I could look at. Maybe it's a time to throw stat or something of that sort. It actually is a time to throw stat. It's the longest time to throw he's had since at least 2020. So since we kind of like really started grooving. So that's just all these things where it just feels like they don't feel I have that. There's games where they do, but I would say for some of these like close matchups or when they maybe have a bad game script, they just don't feel like their confident selves. Where it is like they're just more like, I think we do this. We're doing this right now. Yeah. I think it's I was like, feel is the best way to put it with them, because I do think it's still a good offense. So maybe it's Palmer coming back. Like maybe does that help a little bit? But I don't know. I've been trying to figure out what exactly is wrong with this team right now. Against the Dolphins, it was just stupid turnovers as they were driving the ball. But this is a team that should just go in there and just take care of business. They're just trying to contend, and they don't have a defense that can contend right now, I don't think. Yeah. So the offense has got to do that lifting. And it just, to me, feels like there is just something a little bit missing right here. And I do say it's more supporting cast, but I'm not also saying it's like the worst supporting cast I've ever seen. It's just not the ceiling raising supporting cast that you maybe want.
Yeah, I think you're right to point out that this hasn't necessarily been Josh's best season. And when he's under pressure, he's 25th out of 34 quarterbacks in adjusted yards per attempt. Okay. And I like using adjusted yards per attempt sometimes because it doesn't penalize you for the sacks. And I think some of these guys, and Allen is a good sack avoider. And I think he has obviously avoided sacks this year. He's always good at that. He's really, really become great at that the last few years. But I just think that the throw, there's nothing to really go to. And like he's sandwiched between Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud in terms of this is adjusted yards per attempt under pressure. It's just like he should be much higher than that, but I just don't think there's a lot of answers here. And that's kind of where I come back to again, just the supporting cast. Like Shakir is really good in his role, but he's got to stay in this right role. And I think he's their best and most reliable WR wide receiver. Kincaid has been good in his role as a downfield guy, but he's again a little bit of a hyper specific player. And that just makes the receiver room kind of a mess. And I almost think, I don't think Joe Brady is a bad offensive coordinator at all. I think his designs are totally fine. The route concepts are fine. Everything is buttoned up there. I just don't think they have players to execute it. And then I think that the way the room is built, it pigeonholes these guys in these boxes where, to me, I would almost just go in here and scrap the entire thing and think like, all right, maybe somebody else needs to be X, and then maybe Elijah Moore needs to play a little bit more as the flanker. And they got like Tyrell Shavers. I mean, fans are getting, like, let's get Gabe Davis off the practice squad. Come on. Like, there's got to be a different answer than that. But I would at least think about reallocating some snaps here if I was this team.
It's the same. I feel like I've now brought up this team multiple times, but the last couple of years with the Jaguars offense was that it was a very specific offense and a very fragile offense is what I was always the term I would say. And not fragile in the sense, I mean, Christian Kirk always missed time, but fragile in the sense that it was, this guy has to play this role. This guy has to play this role. This guy has to be in the slot. This guy has to be on the backside blocking Evan Ingram. Christian Kirk always has to be in a slot. All right, what if one guy misses time? well, we can't do that anymore. Or this guy now has to play outside and he can't do that. Or this guy has to line up and be the best blocker in line and we can't do that. And then when I see the Bills offense, that's how it feels. I think Khalil Shakir is a good player. I like him, but he should be a secondary pass catcher. But Dalton Kincaid's a good example. A lot of his good plays are on little shot designer kind of things. So, all right, we're going to use him in this specific sense, but now he's out. All right, who can fill that role? Well, we don't have anyone else that can fill that role. Like it just kind of, so it's not so much that they don't have a true number one. And this is where it helps when you have a true number one, because it's just like, throw it to him. I don't know, just throw it to him. Like that's why it's nice sometimes. In an offense like this, yeah, when everyone's healthy, we're good. Everybody's got a nice little role and we got the answers. Everything's perfect. But one guy's gone. They don't have enough guys that can fill multiple roles. And this is something I've just been kind of marinating on with them. And maybe that's the best way to put it. That's a fragile ecosystem because just their roles are so defined and their skill sets are so specific. They're good in their roles, but if you ask them to do other things, then you start getting a drop off with everything. That's kind of just what it feels like with their passing game.
That makes complete sense to me and is a better way of saying what I was trying to say. So I really like that. All right, so we figured it out. We solved everything there.
We got that.
We figured out where the blame goes for all 6 of these teams, which I'm sure everybody will completely disagree with how we categorize that. No question. Everybody's going to love that. All right, we're going to take our next break here. When we come back, we're going to do a little quick Thursday night preview for a game that doesn't look so great on paper. We'll get into that right after this. All right, we're back. It's time to preview Thursday Night Football here, as we always do. And this one is a little bit of an obligation. We've got to talk about this game. We've got Jets versus Patriots.
Like it's an ad
Jets versus yeah, right. Presented by a game I don't really
presented by Al Michaels, like wanting to be anywhere else.
Oh yeah. How many times do you think you'll talk about a prop bet? How many times do you think Al Michaels is going to say to Kirk Herbstreit, "Well," that's his favorite. When he hates the game, he always says, "Well," and then when they show him, he kind of stares at Herbstreit like, "You got anything about Justin Fields' Ohio State days you want to talk about?" Like that's definitely happening to me.
And Herbstreit's leaning forward with his pen, just kind of like, yeah. Like they're both just trying to think of something so Al Michaels can make some pun about the over hitting again. It's over for some people. It's over for some people. It's like, oh wait, Al, anything to entertain yourself, bud.
Well, it's over for the Jets, that's for sure. Garrett Wilson's going to
Oh,
miss this game. He's going to miss the next few weeks. Brees Hall
Katie Mitchell.
going against one of the best run defenses in the NFL. That's the one thing. That's probably the one thing the Jets can do, and it's not a great matchup against this Patriots team. So I have nothing else to say about the Jets. I mean, if you got Brees Hall, you can go ahead and start him because you probably don't have a better option. But that's about all I got on that. I'm maybe a little bit interested to see AD Mitchell, just if he's active, but just out of a professional curiosity, that's all. So on the Patriots side here, Nate, what do you got in this game?
And even on the Jets side too, it's like Mason Taylor, I guess. Like Patriots are a little susceptible, throws over the middle, but Justin Fields doesn't really throw the ball over the middle. So going to the other side though, the Jets are pretty and I think this is a little issue I've had with Aaron Glenn's stuff. It's more about the feistiness his players play with, is that you can be very predictable on defense. A lot of quarters, a lot of man coverage, especially on 3rd and 4th down. And I looked, they run man coverage at a top 10 rate in the NFL. Stephon Diggs gets the highest target share against man coverage. Oh yeah, I knew you knew that. About 30%. He gets a target share against man coverage this year. His stats, have you seen him this year against man? I know you do your own charting.
Oh yeah,
True Media at least. Oh my God, 3 yards per route run, 20%
3 yards per route.
first down per route, 20% first downs per route run, basically double like historical rate, 22% success rate per route. But also Pop Douglas gets peppered a little bit against man coverage. He has a 25% target share, 3.35 yards per route run. So if you prop wise, I'll get into it, but that's pretty funny with a screenshot they're sharing right there. At first, I thought it was something you shared. I was like, that says how's the job search going? But the other thing too is because of that man coverage and because some of the sloppiness this Jets team has also lost a couple of their great players because they traded them away. So they're dead last this year in EPA allowed to scrambles. They've allowed the most yards to scrambles. They've allowed the highest yards per carry to scrambles, and they've allowed the highest success rate to scrambles. I don't know if you know this, Matt Harmon. Drake May has scrambled at the second highest rate in the NFL this year. He has the most raw total scrambles, 42 scrambles this entire season. He has scrambled for the most yards in the NFL. He has about a 60% success rate. He's scrambled for the 5th most first downs. So prop-wise, I'm taking Drake May, 25 over rushing yards. It's minus 115. And if you really want to climb the ladder with me, Drake May, 50 or more rushing yards is plus 625. Woo. Let's go, baby. Let's see those legs. Let's see a run. Maybe we get a Kyle Williams shot play. But also, because of that man coverage stat, Stephon Diggs over 4.5 receptions, minus 125. And then Diggs, 75 or more receiving yards is plus 180. Those are the props I like. And that is the reason why I like them, is that I think they'll attack this man coverage and kind of have their way against this man coverage.
No Kayshon Boutte in this game, no Ramondre Stevenson in this game, so certainly interested to see what Travion Henderson can do. Of course, hit some more home runs. I think he is a top 16, 17 back in fantasy this week, so you could probably start him in this matchup for sure. And I think what's interesting, Kyle Williams, a little bit more of just a professional curiosity on Kyle Williams. I'm interested to see what he can do in this matchup. He had the one explosive play, but it was only targeted once. Otherwise, and he's had some impressive wins against man coverage, which again, this is a man coverage team, but he's definitely been, you can see the rawness in his game. I think he's probably more of a 26 type guy for them, which is totally fine. Yeah. It's good that he's getting his feet wet. But you brought up the Pop Douglas thing. One prop I was going to just maybe mention here, over 18.5 longest reception for Demario Douglas, because what they've done with Douglas this year, he averages 22 yards per catch against man coverage this year. And when I've been watching Diggs, or because I haven't dialed in and charted Pop Douglas, okay, let me just be serious.
It's fine. But when I've been,
when I have been charting Diggs or Kyle Williams, who's in the rookie report on the site receptionperception.com, when I've been doing that, it's just noticed that they've really weaponized Pop Douglas as a downfield slot receiver this year, which I think is inspired because I remembered in his rookie season when I did chart some Pop Douglas, his rookie season RP profile was like kind of a weird player because he's a slot guy, but he's a much better man beater than a zone beater. And the way that this staff has, no shock, this staff knows how to weaponize that better than Matt Patricia and freaking what was going on last year.
Joe Judge.
They're like, Joe Judge and the boys. We're gonna take that and actually just have him run routes against man coverage down the field. So they've been great against man coverage because Drake May is great, but I love the Diggs reception prop. And then maybe if you're feeling spicy, a little Pop Douglas over 18.5 longest reception. We get one man coverage win from the slot down the field.
50 or more yards for Pop Douglas is plus 300 if you really want to really feeling that pop. No, you're exactly right. They use him a lot on over routes. They've been trying a lot of shot plays go to him, usually like an opening script shot play, like against the Saints is a good example. They try to get to it again, I think last week or against the Falcons. One of the last 2 weeks, they tried to get to it again and they just missed on it. And the Jets too, DVOA, are 31st against the pass. They're 15th against the run. And the Patriots run game hasn't been great. But you know, they can hit some home runs on you, but I think the passing game, they're going to be able to go off against this defense.
I love it. All right. Well, that's something to watch on Thursday night football. We got to have something there. All right. We're going to say goodbye to Nate. When we come back from the break, Joel Smyth joins us for this week's edition of Buzz is Building. We're going to get into that right after this. Welcome to Buzz is Building with our guy, Joel Smyth. Every Wednesday, he joins us for the last block of the show here to provide 5 players with some buzz that you need to keep an eye on heading into each given week. Joel, it's week 11, buddy. What's going on?
How you doing? I'm excited to get this going. Have lots of social media buzz around some certain players. So try to dig in deep, find some things to talk about this week.
All right, yeah, we have 5 really interesting players / situations to dive into here. So let's let it rip. Give us your first one.
First one is Derrick Henry. It's my favorite stat of the week. When we're looking at the expected touchdowns in terms of Derrick Henry's volume, where he's getting the ball, how often, that sort of thing. Right now, his expected touchdowns is 0.7 below, or his touchdowns is below his expected touchdowns by 0.7. So there's not much there at first. But then you look at last year, he had 18 touchdowns on an expected touchdowns of 12.6. Right now, his pace for the season is the exact same, 12.6. He's still getting the same amount of volume. I think he's still the same player. His efficiency's been there. The touchdowns just haven't really come yet. So there's been lots of complaining, rightfully so, that he hasn't had those ceiling games. When are they going to come? I think it is soon, because this offensive line, a little bit of a downgrade, but is not so much of a downgrade in terms of this offense that he shouldn't be scoring well above his expected, just like he did last year. Like, the situation as a whole is still really good.
Yeah, situation is still good, and I'm always expecting more touchdowns when Lamar Jackson is a part of the proceedings, when the defense is better. That's I think the key for Henry here to start the year. And I wonder if Zach Orr has to start to think about this, because last year the defense, the same thing. It started really slow, and then they're like, all right, break glass in case of emergency, change Kyle Hamilton's role, and that really helped. This year they've done the opposite of that, where they, instead of bringing him from safety, they brought him down to the box. I also want to give a shout out to Roquan Smith, who is playing great football right now after really struggling last season. So with the defense being better, that's good for Derrick Henry. So to me, Joel, my guess, and you can tell me if you feel I'm off on this, at some week, maybe it's this week in Cleveland, I don't know, but certainly Jets, Bengals after that, we're going to have one of these like 3 touchdown Derrick Henry games, and this all looks like it corrects itself in the long run.
Yeah. I think it's going to happen soon. I did see like that Kyle Hamilton video. I think it was Ben Solak, so shout out to him, about how much this defense has improved. That was one of the keys. Lamar being back in this offense, just being a powerhouse again, definitely one of those keys. And there's some unluckiness in there, like Justice Hill last week, vulturing the touchdown. But I did look at the schedule. That's like the key part here is like, I think the touchdowns are coming, but when? The schedule right now from week 12, so the week after this, to the week 15, the first round of the fantasy playoffs, he has the best schedule for running backs. Part of that is he plays the Bengals twice. But incredible schedule. I think that's a lot of that is where that's coming. So if you need to make a stretch, like you need to get in the playoffs, I think he's a good buy there, especially that round 1 game, where week 11 against the Browns, really tough matchup this week. And then those last 2 games of the fantasy playoffs, it's New England, I believe Green Bay off the top of my head.
Green Bay, yep.
But 2 really hard matchups to end the season. So I think there is a trade window depending on what your team needs for sure.
I like it. I've got Derrick Henry on 2 of my good teams, so I'm hoping that you're right about that one. Okay, let's get to the next one here.
Bijan Robinson is next. There's been lots of questions on Bijan, just like what's going on. There's lots and lots of flaws, I would say. Not his fault, flaws that he is able to mask. But even throwing out the Kirk Cousins game, it's like throw that out completely. A lot of what he's been able to do has come on those explosive plays. So those first 7 weeks of the season, he was the RB1 in terms of fantasy points on explosive plays. These last 3 weeks, he's 31st in those points on those explosive plays. So it just hasn't really happened. And when that doesn't show up in the box score, well, there's not too much else that he's got going for him. The other pro outside of that is the receiving. So taking out that Cousins game, he's still 6.4 targets per game this year with Penix. It's the 3rd best among running backs. But last week, like his other floor game, he only had 2 targets. So I don't think that's going to stay that way. He's going to get involved in the passing game again. It's just there is lots of flaws here that we have to look at. 1 goal attempt. That is a problem. A lot of people are talking about his red zone usage. He only has 4 touchdowns on the year. It is a 10-yard catch, 14-yard carry, 50-yard reception, and 81-yard run. So the touchdowns aren't as consistent as some of these guys. Like the opposite would be Josh Jacobs. And just the offense in general, that's the other thing. It has been a little bit worse this year, actually a decent bit worse. Scoring offense, 13th to 27th in 2025. And then compared to 2024, that yards before contact dropped by 30% this season.
So are you freaking out about this if you have Bijan, or you're trying to add Tyler Algier off the waiver wire if you're not a Bijan manager? What's kind of the takeaway here?
It's a good question. I like Tyler Algier as a handcuff. I wouldn't say I'm freaking out on Bijan because that talent is so good. Like he'll have his days where he's still going to be great, but I feel like after looking into it, my takeaway is he's really behind those top running backs. Jonathan Taylor, CMC, Jahmyr Gibbs. I would have those 3 above Bijan at this point. So I've gotten some questions like, would you rather have Jahmyr Gibbs or Bijan? I think I'm more solid set on Jahmyr Gibbs right now than Bijan Robinson.
All right, let's get to your third one here, which is a full team situation, or at least a unit on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, the buzz is here in terms of bad buzz. People are not happy with it, but it's the Minnesota passing game. It's not been greatest. Carson Wentz, backup quarterback, we would expect the starter to come back in and be better than Carson Wentz as that backup situation. It hasn't happened. McCarthy, there was lots of upside there, but obviously the floor here too. And it hasn't been greatest. In terms of the catchable target rate, Jefferson's decreased by a decent bit, 74% with Wentz, down to 62%. But the main one is Jordan Addison, like that downfield target, those big shots downfield. He went from 79% on that catchable target rate with Wentz, which was pretty good, really good actually, to dead last in the NFL. 46% in those couple of games with McCarthy here. It hasn't been there for him. So there's some positives here, the schedule mainly, but Jefferson, hard to rank him as that top 10 guy weekly, and Jordan Addison is just getting hard to play him.
Man, yeah, it is getting really hard to play him. And I just don't know if this changes this year, Joel. This is where I'm at. Like, I don't want to completely say it can't happen because McCarthy's a young quarterback and he's still learning. I mean, he's on the injury report again this week, which is just so frustrating that he's always kind of dealing with something from an injury perspective. But I don't want to say it can't get better, but I don't think there's any stat you can point to, or, you know, even watching the film, something to be like, well, this. I just think he has to get better, and we have no idea if that's going to happen or not.
Yeah, I have lost a lot of confidence in this year turning around. Like, they get Dallas week 1 of the playoffs. So I think McCarthy could do good against Dallas. Yeah, kind of everybody has. A lot of bad quarterbacks have. But in terms of this year, it being consistent, I'm not as confident. Like, I feel like a lot of these rookie quarterbacks, if they are to have that late season surge, there's a lot more signs than we have right now.
Yeah, and I mean, from a games played perspective, he's still early in his rookie season because he has 4 starts so far this year. So it's just, I know he's not a rookie, but obviously this is his first year starting. He didn't play all of last year. Okay, speaking of rookies, for your fourth one here, we do have a rookie running back out there in Las Vegas.
Rookie running back, going back to Ashton Genty, checking in on his situation. It's not getting any better, sadly. His yards before contact this year, already second last in the NFL to Quinshon Judkins. He had that injury at left tackle. That doesn't help. Now another injury at center, or in the interior in terms of the offensive line with Powers Johnson. So there's lots of negatives here. The receiving has been a little bit better. Those 2 highest snap rates have been there. He's gotten 5 targets these last couple of games. But in terms of relying on receiving, I'm not as confident in terms of that being able to be consistent and great. I think it'll be more like how Jonathan Taylor has been this year, where the receiving is better, but it's more just an addition to Jonathan Taylor being incredible. And with Genty, everything else is kind of not really there. Like, his expected fantasy points per game, a little bit higher than what he's getting right now. The volume is like a low-end RB1 rate, but his scoring isn't up there yet, and I wouldn't expect that to reach that because of that situation, like just the offense in general. Since week 4, after that, or with that big touchdown game, like the Bears when they had that huge blowout game, he's had 6 touchdowns. The Raiders have 10 as a team. So he's scoring a lot of the touchdowns that the Raiders are getting. So it's not like he's going to have a ton more touchdowns coming if the Raiders offense just stays the same. He's actually been getting a lot of them.
Yeah, and I think there's a chance this Raiders offense could get worse as we go. I mean, Geno Smith is banged up now. Is there some percentage chance we see Kenny Pickett start a game here? That would not be ideal for anyone involved. Tyler Lockett playing a bunch of snaps at wide receiver. I think Genty's fine. He's not going to, kill you if you have him in fantasy, but I think the ceiling case, as you laid out there, is really not there, not present at this point. Okay, final one. And this is a guy that social media is always buzzing about. So I'm not shocked to see this player as your 5th and final selection for the week.
It's going to be Jameis Winston. I love talking about Jameis Winston. He's so fun. Every single time he comes in, off the field, on the field, it's incredible. The main thing here is just looking at the past history, these last few years, whether it was in Cleveland or New Orleans, the fantasy points that he provides is incredible. Right now, past 3 years, his average points to his receivers in half PPR is 50.7. The average this year for quarterbacks is at 42. The average for the Giants is right below 40. So we're not too worried in terms of what he can do in terms of fantasy production. He'll probably not be the greatest quarterback in the world from an NFL perspective, but fantasy is what matters here. The air yards, number 1 in the NFL as a starter. The dropbacks, number 1 in the NFL as a starter. I would expect him to drop back a decent amount just because the Packers defense, they usually force that in general, and it's the ability to run the ball for this Giants offense, especially without darts. That's been a reason for a lot of their success there. So I'd expect a lot of dropbacks for this week. So the big factors here would be Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton, how much they benefit.
I certainly wish it was a more exciting receiving core that Jameis was doing this for. I mean, I'm lower than consensus on Jerry Jeudy, but I mean, Jeudy and Cedric Tillman last year was a lot more interesting than I think what we're getting here in New York. But listen, the Jameis, as I always call it, the Jameis pump and dump scam is real. He's going to come in there, he's going to pump those numbers up, and then his team is going to dump him back to the bench because they don't win football games. And I think we will see that. So I don't know, Joel, I think you got to be pretty desperate to play Slayton or, Wan'Dale Robinson, but this could be a week to do it. And I'm at least interested in from maybe my personal situation, if Theo Johnson can give us something for those of us who are streaming
Yeah.
tight ends. He's somebody that I think is at least worth considering here. But all right, that's Buzz's building for the week. Joel, appreciate you stopping by as always. 5 great situations to uncover there. And that is going to do it for us on the show today. Thanks again to Toyota, the official automotive partner of the NFL, who's all in all season. And don't forget to check out Toyota's game day giveaways for your chance to win. Tomorrow, we will be right back here live on YouTube at 5 p.m. Eastern as Justin Boone joins me to preview the Week 11 slate. Until then, we are out.